Hi everyone, welcome to today's episode where we're going to be answering the question, do two carabiners create more friction than one when we're abseiling or lowering? Let's get going. This is a three-part video series. We're covering today the practical application where we'll do 10 meters of abseiling. We've also got part 1 testing the coefficient of friction and part 2 slow pull testing, so go and check these out. We'll put a link in the description. The context: there is a trend towards smaller diameter ropes. I've seen the claims that two carabiners create more friction for a Munter hitch in a climber's belay device, but is this statement true? And if it is true, how much more friction does it create, and are there any better options to increase friction? Let's get going. By 1 and 2 carabiners, what I mean, as an example, for a belay device, you've got a 1 carabiner on the left here and the 2 carabiners where they're both clipped in to the same location. The context practically for abseiling and lowering, it's about having the right amount of friction to allow smooth movement of the load or yourself under control. Friction, not too much, not too little, just right. Welcome, I'm Grant Prattley from Over the Edge Rescue. On this channel, we bridge the gap between theory, testing, and real-world practice in rope rescue and rigging. The carabiners we tested are the CT Warlock HMS, which is a frame style, and the CT Snappy HMS, which is a round style. The carabiners, the CT Warlock HMS, was 10mm in diameter, and the CT Snappy HMS was 12mm in diameter. The rope used for testing was the Sterling Canyon Lux 8mm. This is a static rope of Spectra and polypropylene in the core with a sheath of Technora and polyester. Part 3, practical testing. Testing by abseiling 10 meters on a single rope. We're free hanging with both 1 and 2 hands being used. So how did it feel in comparison? We're making a subjective assessment of how it felt when abseiling. So it was hard to control, had to use close to maximum grip. Good was could control the speed without too much trouble. Easy was 2 fingers could hold the brake rope, however it was still smooth. And too much means lots of friction, means the abseil was jerky. What we've got here is the 8mm Canyon Lux from Sterling. Our abseil device, belay device, is the Reverso, and the carabiner is the CT Warlock HMS. So we'll use that one first on a single rope, do that up, see how much friction we get with that one. So this is just a comparative test between all the different types. So 2 hands on the rope provides really good control. 1 hand on the rope, quite hard to hang on to. Next thing we're going to do is put a second carabiner into this setup. So it feels like there's more friction than a single carabiner. I'll just see what it's like with 1 hand. Okay, so with 1 hand I'm able to start again. It's quite hard, but that's pretty much under control. If you have a look at the carabiners here, they're sitting pretty well side by side, slightly offset but not too bad. With this one we've got a Reverso and we've got the CT Snappy here, so more of a round style carabiner, not a frame. So we'll put that in the device, clip that in. It's got pretty good friction. I'm able to hold on to it with 1 hand. It's much nicer with 2, however it's pretty similar to the frame carabiner single. So this one we're going to put in the first carabiner and
put in a second carabiner of the same to see how much additional friction I'm going to get with a second. So I'm abseiling down with one hand, and it does feel like there's a bit more friction. I can easily control with one hand, no problems. A little bit more friction. For this one, we're going to take it through the Reverso again. Rather than two carabiners for more friction, put a carabiner here through the harness, through the leg loops and through the waist loop, and now we're going to bring the rope through, do up the carabiner so it gives us extra friction. As you can see, for this one, what we've done is we've brought the rope through the Reverso and then through another carabiner to get more friction. So as you can see, I'm going down with one hand. It's very much under control, and I'll go down and I can vary my angle of rope through this to get the right amount of friction. So I can hold it up, which is a little bit harder. I can use two hands for that, make it a little bit easier, but I can easily hold, get the right amount of friction from my smaller diameter rope. For this one, what we're going to be doing is putting the rope in as normal, a second bite of rope through and clip that in. So it basically goes back to front and back to front through the device. So this time we have 1, 2, 3, 4 lots of friction. I'm easily holding it with one hand. Actually, I've just got a thumb and finger on it, and that's enough friction. If I'm trying to go fast, it's a little bit bouncy, so I'm going to actually have to hold it up to get less friction for this one, which is good if you're on a really thin rope. Gives you lots of control. What we'll do now is a Munter hitch on a single carabiner. So it's on the frame carabiner, this one, and as I'm holding it up, it's requiring quite a bit of effort. I can use one hand up here, coming down around here. Two hands is definitely abseilable without a problem. One hand, quite hard work, but I can do it. Munter hitch again, except this time we're going to put a second carabiner in there to see whether that actually makes a difference. Can hold it up like that, coming down here. It might have a slight bit more, but not a whole lot. What we're going to do here is a Munter on a single carabiner, and this is the CT Snappy, so it's a rounded one rather than a frame style. And not a heck of a lot of friction on this one, as you would expect. Getting both hands on the rope is definitely a good idea. It still works, but definitely the least amount of friction. The more you can roll it around that carabiner, the better. You can still hold it with one hand, but compared to the frame, it's about the same, probably slightly less. Put a Munter in on a single carabiner, but this time we're going to actually add a second carabiner. So I'm abseiling down, and there's slightly more friction. I can hang on just with one hand. Definitely more friction up that way, but it's slightly more friction than a single. So another variation on the Munter, and all we're going to do for this one is rig it with the tail coming out the other side. So all we're doing for this one is, that's your normal single Munter. For this, you're just wrapping it around this one without taking it back through there for the super. So it just gives us a bit more control. It's really nice and smooth. It's just enough friction just to give us a little bit more. So it's sort of like a 1.5 Munter, and it's running really smoothly. I can hold it with one hand and that works incredibly well. Munter 1.5, and that's really nice. If I put one hand right here, I can feed it in at the right angle, and the other one can just hang on to the rope, but I can easily hold on to this with a single. This one is going to be the Super Munter. As there's lots and lots of crossing points, this is going to have a huge amount of friction, but we're going to try it out. This is on a small frame carabiner. It actually is quite jerky because it's got too much friction, but it definitely works. And my pre-tension, the tension I have to have on this other side, I can do it with 2 fingers. Because it's got so many crossing points, there's a heap of friction, but because it's got this rounded carabiner here, it's actually flowing much nicer than the frame. It's really smooth. This is what this kind of carabiner is designed for. I'm going down here with very little pre-tension or input force on the hold side.
Just before we carry on, if you're getting value from this content, please hit that subscribe button so you never miss a new video. Let's continue. Now let's look at the results. For a Munter, adding a second carabiner does not make a noticeable difference. For a Munter, there's no noticeable difference between a round and a frame carabiner as well. Using a Munter 1.5 is a good solution for applying more friction while abseiling on thin ropes. For a Super Munter, use a round carabiner as it's smoother compared to a frame, which can be jerky. For a Reverso, using 2 carabiners of either type for a thin rope provides a noticeable increase in friction compared to using 1 carabiner. For a Reverso, there's no noticeable difference between a round and a frame carabiner. For a Reverso, having 2 carabiners split apart with one used as a redirect provides more friction and is much easier to control compared to both carabiners clipped into the same point. A Reverso with a rope through both holes provides too much friction for an 8mm rope. Conclusions for this third part of the series. Do 2 carabiners create more friction than 1 when we're abseiling or lowering? The evidence. Using a second carabiner can increase friction with a Reverso belay device by a small amount, but not with a Munter. Using a frame or a round carabiner did not make a noticeable difference in friction. Based on the evidence and theory, the best way to increase friction is to take an extra wrap around a carabiner, the device, or the rope. Therefore, other rigging options showed better performance for increasing friction than adding a second carabiner. For example, the Munter 1.5 or a redirect for the Reverso. Check out the rest of the video series for more information. Part 1 was testing the coefficient of friction, and Part 2 was slow pull testing. Practically for abseiling and lowering, it's about having the right amount of friction to allow smooth movement of the load or yourself under control. Have a plan and understand how to increase or decrease friction. Practice in a safe environment with the rope, load and conditions until you have your friction options dialed in. Friction, not too much, not too little, just right. Thanks for watching this video. For more information, check out my website where I've written a post on this subject. I'll put a link in the description below. If you have any questions, put them in the comments, and if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. There are some other great videos on the channel, so check these out as well. Catch you next time.